The Embarrassed Father's Daughter. The mahogany doors of Bennett Industries' main conference room had never looked more imposing. I straightened my simple black blazer, not designer, but impeccably tailored, and checked my watch. 8:57 a.m. In 3 minutes, I'd walk through those doors, not as Sarah Bennett, the daughter my father had thrown out 2 years ago, but as Southeast Holdings' majority shareholder and new CEO. My mind drifted back to that rainy night in our family's circular driveway. No daughter of mine will be a janitor. Dad's voice boomed across our manicured lawn, echoing off the limestone facade of our family mansion. My 2 suitcases landed with a thud on the wet pavement. "Get out." Mom stood in the doorway, wringing her hands but silent. My brother Michael smirked from behind his perfect Windsor knotted tie. The golden boy, the heir apparent to Bennett Industries, watching his competition being eliminated. "Dad, please," I said calmly. "Just let me explain." "Explain what?" "That my Harvard-educated daughter is throwing away her life to clean toilets. That you're embarrassing this family by taking some minimum wage job instead of the executive position I arranged." I picked up my bags, their expensive leather now stained from puddle water. "The maintenance position at Stellar Corp is a good opportunity." "Opportunity?" He laughed bitterly. "The only opportunity you'll have now is learning what it's like without your trust fund, without your car, your credit cards, your family name." "James," Mom finally spoke. "Maybe we should." "No." Dad cut her off. "She made her choice. Now she can live with it." I loaded my bags into my old Toyota Corolla, the only thing in my name that they couldn't take away. As I pulled out of the driveway, I caught one last glimpse of them in my rearview mirror. Dad's rage, Mom's weakness, Michael's satisfaction. None of them knew that the maintenance position at Stellar Corp was just a cover. None of them had bothered to ask why I'd really chosen this path. And none of them had any idea that I'd been quietly buying up shares of Bennett Industries through shell companies for the past 5 years. A discreet cough brought me back to the present. My assistant, David, stood beside me with a tablet. "Everything's ready, Ms. Bennett. The board is assembled. Your father and brother are seated at the head table." I nodded, checking my reflection in the mirrored wall. At 28, I looked nothing like the sheltered society girl I'd been 2 years ago. My eyes were sharper, my stance more confident. Has the news leaked? No. The merger announcement is still under wraps. The board only knows they're meeting the CEO of Southeast Holdings, who's acquiring controlling interest. Your father's been trying to block it. But he doesn't have enough shares anymore. I smiled slightly. Is the security team in place? Yes, in case Mr. Bennett or your brother react poorly. 9:00 a.m. Showtime. I pushed open the mahogany doors and strode into the conference room. 25 board members sat around the massive table, my father and Michael at the far end. Dad was mid-sentence, probably making another argument against the merger. "Cannot allow some unknown entity to." He stopped as I walked in, his face registering first confusion, then shock, then fury. "Sarah?" Michael stood up so quickly his chair scraped loudly against the floor. The chairman, Mr. Richardson, looked between us with dawning understanding. Ah, perfect timing. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Sarah Bennett, CEO of Southeast Holdings, and as of this morning, majority shareholder of Bennett Industries." The room erupted in whispers. Dad's face went from red to white to purple. Michael sank back into his chair. I took my place at the podium, surveying the room with the calm confidence that comes from holding all the cards. Good morning, everyone. We have a lot to discuss about Bennett Industries' future. But first, I believe my father has some questions about my employment history. Dad slammed his fist on the table. This is ridiculous. She's not qualified. Actually, Mr. Richardson interrupted, shuffling through some papers. Ms. Bennett's credentials are quite impressive. Harvard MBA, followed by specialized training in corporate restructuring. And over the past 5 years, she's built Southeast Holdings into a $4.3 billion technology and real estate consortium. I clicked my presentation remote. The screen behind me lit up with our corporate structure. While working as a janitor at Stellar Corp., I was actually overseeing the acquisition of their AI division. That maintenance badge gave me access to every floor, every meeting room, every conversation that mattered. Michael's face twisted. But the trust fund. You've been living like a pauper. No, brother. I've been living within my means while reinvesting my inheritance. Unlike you, I didn't need 5-star hotels and private jets to prove my worth. The board members were studying their packets now, eyes widening at the numbers. Southeast Holdings had been quietly acquiring Bennett Industries stock for years, starting long before Dad threw me out. Impossible, Dad stammered. I would have known. Would you? I pulled up another slide. You were too busy grooming Michael to notice that your biggest clients were shifting their contracts to shell companies I controlled. Too focused on maintaining appearances to see that your own board members were selling their shares to my investment groups. Mr. Richardson cleared his throat. The numbers are quite clear, James. Southeast Holdings now controls 52% of Bennett Industries' voting shares. And their proposal for modernization is exactly what we've been needing. I circled the table slowly, my heels clicking on the marble floor. While you were mocking my janitorial career, I was learning our industry from the ground up. I know every weakness in our infrastructure, every inefficiency in our operations, and exactly how to fix them. Opening my tablet, I projected our 5-year projection onto the screen. Bennett Industries has been losing market share for 3 years. Our technology is outdated, our management structure is bloated, and our costs are out of control. That changes today. The board members leaned forward, captivated by the transformation plan I'd spent years developing. Even Michael looked impressed, despite himself. Dad stood up abruptly. This is all very interesting, but you're forgetting something. I'm still CEO. My contract? Your contract, I interrupted smoothly, has a change of control clause. Section 7, paragraph 3. Would you like me to read it? His face paled. That clause had been his idea, years ago, when he'd been acquiring smaller companies. He never imagined it would be used against him. The shareholders' meeting is in 10 minutes, I continued. The votes are already secured. You can either step down gracefully and remain as a consultant, or we can make this messy. Your choice, Dad. The room was silent, except for the soft hum of the air conditioning. 2 years of planning, of working in secret, of letting them think I'd failed. It all came down to this moment. Mom burst into the room, designer handbag clutched like a shield. James, I just heard. She stopped short when she saw me at the podium. Sarah? But you're a janitor. Hello, Mother. You might want to sit down. We're about to discuss some significant family business changes. The next hour was a blur of votes, signatures, and shocked faces. Dad, realizing he was outmaneuvered, accepted the consultant position with what grace he could muster. Michael was removed from his executive role but offered a lower management position, contingent on actual performance metrics. As the board members filed out, congratulating me and sharing their private relief at the change in leadership, Mom approached hesitantly. "Sweetheart, if we'd known." "You could have asked," I said quietly. "Any time in the past 2 years, you could have called, visited, tried to understand my choices. Instead, you all assumed I was a failure because I didn't follow Dad's plan." She flinched. "We were wrong. I was wrong. But you're so different now. So confident." "I always was, Mom. You just never noticed." Dad and Michael stood by the door, their world thoroughly upended. The great James Bennett, brought low by the daughter he'd thrown away. The golden son, replaced by the sister he'd mocked. "The maintenance staff meeting is in an hour," I announced, gathering my things. "I suggest you both attend. It's time you learned how this company really runs, from the ground up." Dad's jaw clenched. "You can't expect me to." "Actually, I can, and I do. Your consultant contract requires you to learn all aspects of operations, starting with maintenance and working your way up, just like I did." As they left, shell-shocked and subdued, David appeared with my schedule. "Your 11 a.m. is here, the tech merger team from Silicon Valley. Then lunch with the infrastructure modernization consultants." I nodded, straightening my simple blazer. "Have the maintenance team ready in conference room B. I want Dad and Michael to understand exactly what I learned in my janitor days." Looking out over the city skyline from my new office, Dad's old office, I allowed myself a small smile. The maintenance badge that had caused so much family drama sat framed on my wall, next to my Harvard diploma, and the first share of Bennett Industries stock I'd ever purchased. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong, it's proving yourself right. And I was just getting started. The next few months were a whirlwind of changes. I implemented the modernization plan I'd spent years developing, streamlining operations, and updating our technology infrastructure. The stock price rose 40% in the first quarter. Dad struggled with his new role, alternating between grudging respect and simmering resentment. Michael, surprisingly, adapted better. Stripped of his entitlement, he actually showed promise in project management. Mom tried to bridge the gaps, hosting awkward family dinners where we all pretended the past 2 years hadn't happened. But things had changed irreversibly. The power dynamics had shifted, and we were all adjusting to our new reality. One evening, as I was working late, Dad appeared in my office doorway. He looked older, humbler, his expensive suit slightly wrinkled from a day of actual work. "The maintenance team," he said quietly, "they respect you. Not because you're CEO, but because you worked alongside them, learned their names, their challenges, their ideas for improvement." I kept typing. "They're the backbone of this company. Something you might have realized if you'd ever looked past the executive floor." He stepped inside, running his hand along the mahogany bookshelf. "His bookshelf. Once. I was wrong, Sarah, about everything. I was so focused on my vision for you that I couldn't see your vision for yourself. And now, I looked up finally. Now that my vision has saved the company you nearly ran into the ground." He flinched but nodded. "Now I understand. You're a better CEO than I ever was, because you see the whole picture, not just the top floor." I studied him for a moment. The great James Bennett, learning humility at 63. "There's a maintenance team meeting tomorrow at 7 a.m. Don't be late." He almost smiled. "Yes, boss." As he left, I looked at the maintenance badge again. The photo showed a younger me, smile confident despite the job title that had so horrified my family. That badge had taught me more about leadership than any Harvard class. Sometimes the path to the top starts at the bottom, and sometimes the people who throw you out are the ones who end up begging to come back in. The next board meeting, I implemented profit sharing for all employees, starting with the maintenance team. As I watched Dad and Michael nodding in approval, I realized that sometimes the best leadership lessons come from a janitor's closet. And my family, they're still learning. But now they're learning from the bottom up, just like I did. Because sometimes the best way to run a family business is to remember that every position, every person matters. Even, especially, the janitors. 6 months into my role as CEO, the real transformation of Bennett Industries was becoming evident. Our quarterly reports showed a 60% increase in employee satisfaction and a 45% reduction in operational costs. The maintenance badge program, requiring all executives to spend time in different departments, had become a Harvard Business School case study in effective leadership. One morning, as I walked through the lobby of our headquarters, I overheard a conversation that made me pause. "Can you believe the CEO used to work maintenance here?" One janitor said to another. "Now my kid's in the company's college scholarship program. Never thought I'd see the day." I smiled, remembering the day I'd announced the education initiative. Michael had actually suggested expanding it to include trade schools, his first real contribution as the new head of employee development. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Dinner tonight? Your father has something to tell you." The family dynamics were still complicated. Weekly dinners had become a careful dance of reconciliation and reorganization. But tonight felt different. At 7, I pulled up to my parents' house in my Tesla Model S, my one concession to corporate success. The same circular driveway where Dad had thrown my bags 2 years ago now seemed smaller, less intimidating. Mom opened the door before I could knock. She'd stopped wearing quite so much designer clothing, though her pearls remained perfectly matched. "Sweetheart, come in. Your father's in his study." Dad's study, once his command center for running Bennett Industries, had changed. The massive oak desk remained, but now it held papers about employee initiatives and sustainability programs instead of merger documents and profit reports. He stood as I entered, and I noticed he was wearing the maintenance team jacket, the same one he'd once called "Beneath Our Family's Dignity." "Sarah," he said, gesturing to a chair, "I've been reviewing the quarterly numbers." I sat, preparing for criticism. Old habits die hard. "They're impressive," he continued. "But what's more impressive is this." He handed me a folder. Inside were letters from employees, dozens of them. Stories about how the changes had affected their lives. A maintenance worker whose daughter was now in college. An AT specialist who had been promoted based on merit rather than connections. A cleaning staff supervisor who'd implemented cost-saving measures that saved the company millions. "You didn't just take over the company," Dad said quietly. "You transformed it into something I should have built decades ago." I looked up, surprised by the emotion in his voice. "I'd been talking with the board," he continued. "I'd like to step down as consultant, but not because I'm angry or resentful anymore, because I want to start something new. A foundation, helping other companies implement the changes you've made here." My throat tightened. The Bennett Foundation for Corporate Transformation. He shook his head. "The Sarah Bennett Foundation for Inclusive Leadership. If you'll let me use your name." Before I could respond, Michael burst in, waving a tablet. "Sarah, sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. Forbes just released their 40 under 40 list. I took the tablet, reading the headline. Sarah Bennett, the janitor who became a billionaire CEO. The article detailed my journey, praising the ground-up leadership model I'd implemented. But what caught my eye was the quote from Michael. My sister taught our family that true leadership isn't about corner offices and executive titles. It's about understanding every level of your business, respecting every employee, and having the courage to start at the bottom, even when you could have started at the top. Mom appeared with champagne, her eyes misty. I had them polish the crystal glasses that had been sitting dusty since that night. As we stood in the study, the same room where Dad had once told me I was a disappointment, I realized something profound. Success isn't just about proving others wrong. Sometimes it's about giving them the chance to prove themselves right. To new beginnings, Dad proposed, raising his glass. To learning from every level, Michael added. To family, Mom said softly. I looked at my maintenance badge, still carried in my wallet as a reminder. To all of us, I said. Every employee, every position, every lesson learned. Later that night, as I walked through the quiet halls of Bennett Industries, I stopped to help one of the night maintenance workers with a stubborn cleaning cart. You don't have to do that, Ms. Bennett, he said, embarrassed. I smiled, remembering my first day with a similar cart. Actually, I do, because this company works from the ground up. Always has, always will. The next morning, I added one more item to our corporate policy. Every new hire, regardless of position, starts with a week in maintenance. Because sometimes the view from the bottom shows you exactly how to reach the top. And my maintenance badge? It's still the first thing visitors see when they enter my office. A reminder that success isn't about where you sit in the boardroom. It's about understanding every room in the building. Because sometimes the best CEOs start as janitors. And sometimes the best families are built not from the top down, but from the ground up. That's not just a business lesson. That's the Bennett way. The new Bennett way. And we're just getting started. I always knew this day would come. Sitting in my childhood home's formal dining room, watching my father pace near the antique sideboard, I could practically recite the lecture before it began. The emergency family meeting text had arrived yesterday, perfectly timed after my sister Olivia's partnership announcement at Morrison & Sterling, the city's most prestigious law firm. Mom had arranged everything with her usual precision. The good china gleamed, crystal glasses caught the late afternoon light, and family members were positioned like chess pieces. Dad at the head of the table, his Morgan Stanley managing director posture perfect. Mom to his right, wearing her concerned expression along with her Cartier necklace. Olivia beside her, practically glowing in her camel suit. Uncle Robert, Dad's older brother and senior partner at his own investment firm, sat across from me, already shaking his head disapprovingly. Catherine, Dad began, using my full name. Never a good sign. We've gathered everyone here because we're worried about your situation. He spat out the last word like it tasted bitter. I adjusted my simple black blazer, a deliberate choice, like everything else about my appearance today. No designer labels, minimal makeup, my Harvard MBA class ring conspicuously absent. Let them think I couldn't afford better. It made what was coming so much sweeter. Your sister made partner at 32, Dad continued, gesturing to Olivia, who managed to look both sympathetic and superior. Youngest female partner in the firm's history. While you, he waved his hand vaguely, play entrepreneur with some tech startup nobody's heard of. Mom reached for her wine glass. Darling, we just want to understand. You had such a promising career at Goldman. Vice president at 28. On track for managing director. Then you just walked away. To build apps, Uncle Robert interjected, making apps sound like a communicable disease. 3 years of watching you waste your potential. Your trust fund, which you froze, I reminded him quietly. For your own good, he thundered. Someone had to show some sense. Olivia leaned forward, all practiced courtroom concern. Kat, we know starting over is hard, but Morrison and Sterling always needs good corporate attorneys. With your background, I could probably. Still trying to save me, Liv. I kept my voice neutral, like when you told the family about my failed startup last Christmas. She had the grace to flush. That particular announcement had led to 6 months of interventions, career counselors, and not-so-subtle job listings appearing in my email. Someone had to do something, she defended. You've been working out of that tiny office downtown, driving that old car, living in that starter condo, Mom added sadly. We just want you to have the life you deserve. I checked my phone discreetly. 6:58 p.m. The Wall Street Journal article would go live in 2 minutes, right on schedule. Dad was really hitting his stride now. Your sister made partner while you play with computers. Do you know what that partnership means? 7 figures base, bonuses, corner office, real success. And what exactly do you have to show for these 3 years? Uncle Robert demanded. What does your company even do? I smiled slightly. Would you like me to explain? Please. Mom jumped in. We've been trying to understand. Actually, I said, I think the Wall Street Journal might explain it better. Mom's phone buzzed. She glanced down automatically, then froze. The color drained from her face. Margaret? Dad frowned. What is it? She turned the phone around shakily. There on the screen was the headline they'd all been too busy judging me to notice coming. UNTUMSOAUDTIONS valued at $4 billion AFTRLATEST UNDIGROUND Tech's newest unicorn revolutionizes AI security. My company's logo filled the screen. Below it, my professional headshot and the caption. Catherine Mitchell, 31, founder and CEO of Silicon Valley's most secretive success story. The room went completely silent. That's... Uncle Robert grabbed the phone. This must be a mistake. No mistake, I said calmly. Though that valuation is a bit outdated. After this morning's acquisition, we're closer to $6 billion. Olivia's perfect composure cracked. $6 billion? Would you like to know what my company actually does now? I pulled out my tablet, watching their faces as the reality slowly sank in. Or should we discuss how my playing with computers just revolutionized cybersecurity? Dad sank into his chair, face ashen. But you never said anything. I met his eyes steadily. You never asked. You were too busy planning my intervention to notice my success. Mom's phone started buzzing continuously as notifications poured in. The story was being picked up by other outlets. Soon, every financial news network would be running it. I don't understand, Olivia whispered. All this time, I confirmed. I've been building something revolutionary. That tiny office downtown is actually the smallest space in a building I own. That starter condo is the penthouse at the Morrison. And that old car is a deliberate choice, because true success doesn't need to show off. Uncle Robert was still staring at the phone, scrolling frantically. The board, the investors, include 3 Fortune 500 CEOs and the world's largest tech venture fund, I supplied. We kept things quiet while developing the technology. Security reasons, you understand. The article was detailing exactly what my company had created, an AI-driven quantum security system that made existing encryption obsolete. Every major tech company, government agency, and financial institution would need our technology. And I owned 51% of the company. Dad looked like he'd been punched. Why didn't you tell us? I stood up, smoothing my simple blazer. Because sometimes the best success comes when people underestimate you. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a video interview with Bloomberg in an hour. They're doing a special on disruptive tech leaders. As I headed for the door, Mom found her voice. Catherine, wait, please. I turned back. Oh, and Liv? Congratulations on making partner. 7 figures is impressive. I smiled. Let me know when you're ready to discuss real numbers. The last thing I saw as I left was Olivia's face as she did the math on my net worth compared to her partnership compensation. Some victories don't need words. Outside, a sleek black car waited to take me to the studio. My phone buzzed with a message from my COO. Stocks up 30% pre-market in Asia. Ready to change the world. I smiled, thinking of the shocked faces I'd left behind. Always ready. After all, success is the best revenge, especially when nobody sees it coming. The Bloomberg studio lights were harsh, but I remained perfectly composed. The host, Michael Jensen, leaned forward with practiced intensity. So, Catherine Mitchell, the tech world's newest billionaire. Or should I say, its best-kept secret. How does someone build a $6 billion company without anyone noticing? I smiled, knowing my family was probably watching. Success doesn't need an audience, Michael. It needs focus. The interview was going live across global markets. Asian trading had already responded. Our stock was up 40% and climbing. But that wasn't what made me check my phone during the commercial break. The messages had started pouring in. Dad, Catherine, we need to talk. Please. Mom, darling, I've had calls from every charity board in the city. Olivia, the managing partners want to meet you. Please call me. Uncle Robert, my investment committee is asking questions. We should discuss. I ignored them all, focusing instead on the message from Marcus, my COO. Goldman Sachs called. They want to schedule a meeting. I smiled, remembering my old corner office there. The one I'd foolishly walked away from 3 years ago. The same Goldman Sachs that had declined to invest in our first funding round. We're back in 30 seconds, the producer announced. Ms. Mitchell, Michael said as we returned to air. Your quantum encryption technology is being called revolutionary. Every major tech company will need to adapt. How does it feel to disrupt an entire industry? It feels like validation. I replied, thinking of all those family dinners where they dismissed my work. But this is just the beginning. After the interview, my phone showed 147 missed calls. The top tech news sites were running with the story. Stealth startup becomes Valley's hottest company overnight. Catherine Mitchell, the billionaire nobody saw coming. Quantum Solutions. How one woman revolutionized cybersecurity. My executive assistant, Sarah, met me at the elevator of our headquarters. Your sister's been in the lobby for 2 hours. Of course she has. I checked the security feed on my phone. Olivia sat in her perfect channel suit, looking increasingly less perfect as time passed. Let her wait. My office occupied the top floor of the building, the one my family thought was just a small rental space. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city skyline, including the Morrison and Sterling building where Olivia had just made partner. "The Goldman Sachs team will be here at 2, Sarah reported. "And the Times wants an exclusive on your journey from Goldman VP to tech CEO. Schedule the Times for next week." I sat at my desk, studying the latest market reports. "Let's make Goldman sweat a little first." A soft knock interrupted. Marcus entered, tablet in hand. "You might want to see this." He pulled up a LinkedIn post from Olivia. "So proud of my brilliant sister, Catherine Mitchell, CEO of Quantum Solutions. Always knew she would change the world. Hashtag proud sister, hashtag woman in tech, hashtag family first." "Interesting," I said, considering last week she told our cousins I was wasting my potential. "Your uncle's firm also released a statement claiming they were early supporters of your vision." I laughed. "The same uncle who froze my trust fund to teach me responsibility." Marcus grinned. "Want to show them what real support looks like?" I pulled up our investor dashboard. "Released the Series B details. Let everyone see who really believed in us." The list was impressive. 3 of the world's top venture capital firms, 2 tech giants, and a handful of strategic investors. Notably absent, Uncle Robert's prestigious investment firm. Also, Marcus added, Morrison and Sterling's managing partner called. "They want to pitch for our legal business." Olivia's firm. I raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess, they suggested her as lead counsel. Said she'd give us the family discount." I shook my head. "Schedule meetings with their top 3 competitors instead. Let's see how that partnership feels when she loses the year's biggest potential client." Sarah appeared in the doorway. "Your sister's still downstairs, and your parents just arrived." I checked the lobby feed. Mom clutched her Hermes bag like armor. Dad looked uncomfortable in the modern space, so different from his wood-paneled bank office. "Your call," Marcus said quietly. "But the press will notice if the CEO's family isn't allowed upstairs." He was right. Image mattered now. I pressed the intercom. "Send them up." But first, I turned to Sarah. "Bring me the Goldman Sachs rejection letter from our first funding round, and Uncle Robert's trust fund freeze notification." "Planning something?" Marcus asked. "Just gathering receipts." I straightened my simple blazer, the same one they'd probably assumed I couldn't afford better than. Success is best served with documentation. The elevator dinged. Olivia entered first, attempting to regain her courtroom confidence. Mom and Dad followed, taking in the sleek office with wide eyes. "Catherine," Mom started, "why didn't you tell us?" "About what?" I kept my voice neutral. "The company valuation? The technological breakthrough? Or how about the fact that I bought the Morrison building last year?" Olivia's head snapped up. "You own my firm's building? Along with half the block," I smiled. "Being a landlord is just a hobby, though. Like playing with computers." Dad stepped forward. "Sweetheart, we were wrong. We should have supported." "Should have?" I cut him off. "Like when you supported Olivia's career, funded her law school, celebrated every promotion." I pulled out the trust fund freeze notification. "Or like when Uncle Robert decided I needed to learn responsibility." Mom sank into a chair. "We thought. You thought you knew better." I stood, walking to the window. "You thought success only looked one way. Corner offices, law firms, investment banks. I turned back to face them. Want to know what real success looks like? I pressed a button, and the glass wall behind my desk turned transparent, revealing a massive workspace filled with engineers, developers, and researchers. That's what $6 billion of success looks like. 200 brilliant minds creating the future of cybersecurity. And not one of them cared what car I drove or where I lived. They cared about the vision. Olivia found her voice. The partners wanted me to discuss our firm's services. Already scheduled meetings with your competitors. I watched her face fall. Might affect those partnership bonuses, I imagine. But we're family, she protested. Family? I picked up the Goldman Sachs rejection letter. Family would have asked what I was building. Would have believed in me without needing the Wall Street Journal's validation. Dad stepped forward. We can fix this. Start over. Fix what? I raised an eyebrow. My successful company? My majority ownership? Or the fact that your failing daughter now has more net worth than your entire family combined? The silence was heady. Now, I checked my watch. I have a meeting with Goldman Sachs. Apparently, they're very interested in working with us now. Catherine, please. Mom tried one last time. Come to dinner. Let us make this right. I looked at them. Really looked at them. Mom's practiced polish showing cracks. Dad's authority deflated. Olivia's perfect world shaken. I have a better idea, I said finally. Next week, I'm speaking at the World Tech Summit. Thousands of attendees, global media coverage. You're welcome to watch, from the audience. They got the message. Success had changed everything, including who now held the power to extend or withhold invitations. As they left, Marcus returned with more updates. Our stock was still climbing. Interview requests were flooding in. The biggest names in tech wanted meetings. Ready for the Goldman pitch? He asked. I smiled, thinking of my old boss who'd questioned my decision to leave. Oh yes, let's show them what they missed out on. Because success isn't just about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. And I was just getting started. The World Tech Summit main stage was everything I'd imagined during those long nights coding in my tiny office. 20-foot screens displayed the Quantum Solutions logo. 5,000 attendees filled the convention center's grand hall. Every major tech publication had front row seats. From the green room, I watched my family file in. 4th row, center section. Mom in channel, Dad in his power suit, Olivia looking uncomfortable without her usual authority. Uncle Robert had somehow secured a seat, despite not being on the guest list. Typical. 2 minutes, Ms. Mitchell, the stage manager announced. I checked my reflection. Simple black dress, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back neatly. Not the family's usual definition of success, but perfectly suited for a tech CEO worth billions. My phone buzzed with a message from Marcus. Stock hit $450. Up 180% since WSJ article. Ready to shock them again? I smiled. They had no idea what was coming. The introducer's voice boomed through the speakers. Please welcome the founder and CEO of Quantum Solutions, Catherine Mitchell. The applause was thunderous. I walked out, command and confidence in every step. The screens behind me lit up with our latest technology demonstration. 3 years ago, I left a prestigious banking career to pursue what my family called a dream. Today, that dream is valued at $8 billion. I saw Dad flinch at the number. Higher than what they'd read in the press. But this isn't a story about money. It's about vision. While others saw encryption as a wall, we saw it as a door, a quantum door. The screens displayed our technology in action. The audience gasped as we demonstrated how traditional security systems fell before conventional attacks, while our quantum shield remained impenetrable. This morning, I continued, I'm pleased to announce that Quantum Solutions has been selected by the Department of Defense for a $12 billion security infrastructure contract. The room erupted. Photographers' flashes lit up like lightning. In the fourth row, Mom grabbed Dad's arm. Olivia's jaw dropped. Additionally, I smiled, knowing this would hit home. We've acquired Morrison Digital Securities. Olivia's head snapped up. Her law firm's biggest client, gone in one sentence. But perhaps most significantly, I paused, savoring the moment. We've established the Mitchell Innovation Foundation with a $500 million endowment to support young entrepreneurs who, like me, have a vision others might not understand. The screens show the foundation's first initiative: full scholarships for women in tech, specifically those who'd been told they couldn't succeed. As I outlined our plans for global expansion, I watched my family's reactions. Dad's proud smile, too late to claim credit. Mom's tears, realizing what she'd missed. Olivia's rapid texting, probably to her panicking law partners. After the presentation, the press swarmed. Ms. Mitchell, how does it feel to be called the next Steve Jobs? Is it true you're now the youngest self-made female billionaire in tech? Any response to rumors about a potential Goldman Sachs merger? I handled each question with practiced ease, watching my family hover at the edges of the crowd. They'd have to wait, just like everyone else. Hours later, in my office, Sarah brought in the afternoon's headlines. Quantum Solutions lands historic defense contract. Catherine Mitchell, the woman who revolutionized security, tech's new queen. How one CEO changed the game. Your family's still in the building, she reported. Your sisters tried to get past security 3 times. I walked to the window, looking out at the city I now partially owned. Send them up. It's time. They entered like chastened children, not the power players they'd been just days ago. That was, Dad started. Revolutionary? I supplied. World-changing? Or just playing with computers? Mom stepped forward. We were wrong, Catherine. So wrong. Yes, I agreed simply. You were. The foundation, Olivia said. That's impressive. It's necessary, I corrected, so other women don't hear no from the people who should support them most. Uncle Robert cleared his throat. About the trust fund. Is still frozen. I cut him off. And will remain so. I'm doing quite well without it. Catherine, Dad tried again. We want to be part of this. Part of your success. I turned to face them fully. My success happened without you. Happened despite you. The time to be part of it was 3 years ago, when I needed support. Not now, when I've proven everyone wrong. Then why let us come today? Olivia asked quietly. Because success isn't about revenge, I said. It's about growth. You needed to see that the daughter you dismissed changed the world. The sister you pitied now owns your firm's building. The niece you tried to control built an empire. I pressed a button, and the office windows turned transparent, revealing the full scale of our operations. Hundreds of employees, millions in equipment, the future being built in real time. This is what believing in yourself looks like, I said. This is what happens when you don't let others define your worth. Mom was crying openly now. Please, give us a chance to make it right. I smiled softly. You already did. Your doubt made me stronger. Your dismissal made me determined. Your lack of faith made me unstoppable. And now? Dad asked. Now? I checked my phone as another alert came in. Now I have a company to run, an industry to revolutionize, and a generation of entrepreneurs to support. You're welcome to watch, from whatever distance you earn. They left quietly, understanding finally that the power dynamic had shifted permanently. Success had transformed their dutiful daughter into someone they barely recognized, a leader, a visionary, a force. Later that night, alone in my office, Marcus brought in the final market report. Stock closed at $500. Market cap now over $10 billion. Send the numbers to the board, I said. And Marcus? Schedule the meeting with Goldman Sachs. Let's show them what they missed. They'll try to buy their way in now, he warned. Let them try. I smiled, thinking of all those doubting voices now turned to praise. Success isn't about who joins you at the finish line. It's about who believed in you at the start. My phone buzzed with another family message. I ignored it, focusing instead on the foundation proposals. Somewhere out there, another woman was being told she couldn't succeed, couldn't innovate, couldn't lead. I would make sure she could. Because true success isn't measured in billions or headlines or vindication. It's measured in impact and change, in showing others what's possible when you refuse to let anyone else write your story. And my story? It was just beginning.